Welcome to another episode of Pirkei Avot. We're on the cusp of the end of the third Perek, and we're going to start today Mishna 22 in memory of Levy ben Moshe Esther and Elisheva Yael bat Leah, and also my father, that's Yehuda ben Moshe Esther. And we're going to hand you over to Mr. Michael Kalati. B'chavod.
Thank you, Rabbi Mashiach. So this Mishnah, again, we're going to be analysing the words of Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah, who started the last episode. He continues, Hu haya omer. He used to say, Kol shechochmato muruba mima'asov. Any man whose wisdom exceeds his deeds, to what lama hu domer, to what is he compared, or what he is like? Le'ilan shenafash murubim v'sharchav mu'atin, to a tree whose branches are many but roots are few. V'haruach ba'a v'akarato v'hofachto al panav. And the wind comes and plucks it up and overturns it on its face. Shneimar, as it says, V'haya ka'ara'a ba'arava, lo yirah ki yavo tov. And as it said, and he shall be like the lonely juniper tree in the desert, and he shall not see good come. V'shachan charerim b'midbar, but he shall dwell in the parched places in the wilderness, eres melecha v'lo teshev, a salt and uninhabited land. This is from Yirmiyahu 17:6. Aval kol shema asav murabim b'chochmato, but anybody whose deeds exceed his wisdom, lamahu domeh, what is he like? Le'ilan shenafash ma'otim v'sharshav murubim, to a trees whose branches are few but whose roots are many. She'afidu kol haruchot sheba'olam ba'ot v'noshvot bo, so that even if all the winds in the world come and blow it, ein ma'zizim oto mimkomo, they cannot budget from his place. It says, V'haya ka'ed shatul al mayim, and he shall be as a tree that is planted by the water. V'al yuval yeshalach sharshav, and by the stream it spreads out its roots. V'lo yireh kol yovocham, and it should not perceive any heat when it comes. V'haya lehu ra'anan, v'ovishnat b'tzoret lo yidag v'lo yamish ma'osot pari, and then it shall not perceive any heat when it comes, and its foliage shall be verdant, nor shall it be troubled in a year of drought, nor cease from bearing fruit. So Rab Elazar ben Azariah is comparing a person whose wisdom outweigh his deeds to a heavily laden tree with plenty of foliage but little in the way of roots, and determines the opposite for someone with a majority of deeds as compared to his wisdom, as someone whose roots are firmly implanted in the ground and extended. So earlier in this chapter, in Mishnah 12, Rav Chanina ben Dosa already expressed the same basic thought, though more concisely. This Mishnah drives the thought home with a vivid analogy that adds new insight. It compares the human being to a tree. His wisdom corresponds to the branches or foliage, and his deeds are like the roots. But science tells us that a tree's nourishment comes to it primarily through its roots. This expanding network of underground pipelines brings the tree its needed water and minerals. And in man, what is it that brings him spiritual nourishment? What provides his vital spirit with the elements it needs for continued life and growth? The Torah's answer is the deed, a good deed. Academic study alone, theoretical contemplation alone, exercise of the reason alone cannot basically affect the all-important functioning, acting part of the character. Only the Torah deed, which combines conscious intent and physical action, can nourish and improve the character, slowly and slightly, but permanently. Therefore, a person whose wisdom exceeds his deeds, who sees in his wisdom an end in itself, which he need not translate into actual achievements, is kind of top-heavy or overextended. His loyalty to the Jewish religion has an insufficient foundation. It is an edifice that can easily topple, and should the various winds begin to blow, his meagre roots of abstract intellectual wisdom will not be able to hold him in his position. He will go whichever way the wind blows, likely to his disaster. Similarly, should he be swept away by a gale of hardship or ill fortune, he may be easily uprooted and cast down on his face. In his commentary in the Avot, Naftali Hertz Vesely makes a telling observation here, and I quote, "Note the effect of wind on some of our other physical elements. A fire will burn quietly in one place unless a wind appears. It will fan the flames into a greater blaze and spread it further. The ocean is fairly calm and quiet until a wind comes along and blows it into a raging storm. Dust, too, will lie quietly until a wind appears to send the fine particles swirling and scurrying into a fine frenzy. So is it with the human personality. Many of us have incipient characteristics, potentialities for anger, envy, disloyalty, and so on. Under ordinary conditions, these characteristics lie quiet and dormant, entirely harmless. But when the winds of unusual stresses or stimuli begin to blow, when times change and new conditions begin to arise, these harmless impulses within us may be stirred into something quite different. Such times are a test of our root system. How strong, how deep, how extensive are our roots in Torah? If we have only Jewish wisdom, knowledge, information and concepts stored in the upper levels of our mind, our root system will not be strong enough. If, however, your Yiddishkeit is a matter of total commitment that involves your total being, emotions, intellect and behavior, then you are indeed deeply rooted in Torah and Hashem. Should the winds of the strangest ideologies blow, should even gales of lust and envy appear on the horizon, such a person will be unmoved and unaffected. He is truly as a tree whose foliage will always be green, and he will continue to give fruit. He will remain dependable to continue to bring benefit to his community. It is interesting also to note that for our Mishna it is not enough if deeds and wisdom will be about equal in a person's life and character. The Mishna insists that our deeds exceed our wisdom. Only then, says Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah, will we have roots and stability of character. Indeed, this is and has been the greatness of Jewry throughout the generations. Even when our people stood before Mount Sinai and learned the Torah, the words of Hashem would be revealed to them, they replied, "We will do and we will hear." Now, the Hebrew word for hear also denotes comprehending and understanding. At the foot of Sinai, the Bnei Israel surely did not fully understand the Torah. They could not even foresee all the implications that Torah would involve. Nevertheless, they committed themselves to do, to act as the Torah would require, even before they fully understood. This has got to be the touchstone of every Jew in every generation. Our deeds must always run ahead of our understanding. As we grow older and study more, we understand more and appreciate more of our Judaism. But as each stage our understanding grows, we must continue to leap ahead by committing ourselves to more extensive deeds and profounder observances. We must do this even without comprehension, trusting that our reason will catch up. So what does Rab Chaim of Volodin say about this Mishnah? He says that Torah study serves a dual purpose. In itself, study is a good deed, and it also teaches man how to perform the other mitzvot. Anyone whose good deeds exceed his wisdom, whose motivation to do the good deed of studying Torah and learning how to perform the mitzvahs exceed his desire for knowledge, will be like a firmly rooted tree. If his motive is merely to know the wisdom of Torah, but not for the mitzvah of studying it, then his desire for wisdom exceeds his good deeds of studying Torah, and he is like a poorly rooted tree. What does he say about the concept of a tree which is planted next to water? He brings an interesting story. He says a king discovered a very fertile field on his servant's estate. He uprooted all of the trees in the royal orchard and had them replanted in the servant's field. He cautioned the servants to guard the orchard very carefully. The king promised that the servant would be compensated with the fruit that grew there. The servant was negligent in his duties and the orchard was ruined. The king was furious and punished him severely. Shatul, planted, means replanted. Hashem took the soul from its original place in heaven where it could not amass any merits and replanted it in a very fertile place in this world. Here, Torah can be studied and mitzvahs performed. If a man cares for his soul, he will be compensated with this fruit as his reward in the world to come. Tehillim chapter 1 uses a very similar expression, and I quote, "He will be like a tree replanted by streams of water. He will give his fruit in its time." End quote. The righteous man can claim his fruit, his Torah and mitzvahs, which is produced in the proper time, i.e. while he lived in this world. And another way of looking at it with the concept of a tree and roots and foliage is that a person's knowledge, all the facts, can be considered to be the leaves on a tree. And obviously it's his good deeds are the roots. So you can look at it and can make the Torah the sun. And the sun is the thing that nourishes and creates the leaves on the tree. But when the sun is, when the tree is not within sight of the sun, it takes it away from the sun, you lose the leaves. The leaves drop off. Like the memory will forget your Torah facts. But what remains when you do good deeds? The roots never contract. The roots never shed themselves. The roots survive the tree. In fact, you could say even when the tree dies, what is left are the roots. The roots are left. So a person's good deeds remain in existence even after he dies.
Wow, that's like Shlomo Melech said, Tov Shem and Shem and Tov. A good name is better than good oil. Why? Because good oil is what you have in Olam Hazeh. This is the material side. But a good name is what you take with you. You can't take it with you physically, but you can take with you a good. You can leave behind a good name. That's what is your ultimate Yerusha. It's your ultimate inheritance.
And that concludes this Mishna, which was number 22. Out of 23 next week, we are going to be introduced to Rav Elazar Chizma.
Okay, that's very good. Thank you so much, and have a wonderful and blessed week.